Elmwood Avenue, once a thriving neighborhood, had become a desolate and eerie place. The abandoned house at the end of the street stood as a haunting reminder of the neighborhood's dark past. Rumors circulated that the house was cursed, and anyone who dared to enter would face unimaginable horrors. One fateful evening, a young couple, Sarah and Mark, out of curiosity, decided to explore the abandoned house. Armed with flashlights and shaking with excitement, they stepped cautiously through the creaking front door. The air inside was stale and filled with a sense of foreboding. The floorboards groaned under their weight. As they made their way into the house, shadows danced ominously on the walls, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere. As they went up the creaky stairs to the second floor, Sarah noticed a strange room at the end of the hallway. The door was December a little, and a dimly lighted room appeared within. Sarah's curiosity overcame her against Mark's protests, and she entered the room. The sight that greeted him was beyond comprehension. The room was filled with old photographs, each depicting a different person. His eyes seemed to be following Sarah's every movement, and he felt an icy chill run down his spine. The uncomfortable feeling was intensified by the realization that all the photos belonged to people who had mysteriously disappeared from the neighborhood. Suddenly, a wind slammed the door, trapping Sarah inside the room. Panic surged through his veins as he desperately tried to open the door, but it remained stubbornly locked. Realizing that something was wrong, Mark knocked on the door and called out to Sarah. As Sarah's cries for help echoed through the house, the walls around her seemed to be closing in. The room turned cold, and whispers filled the air. Their words filled with an indistinguishable but undeniable evil. Sarah's heart quickened when she realized that she was not alone in the room. Shadows moved in the corners, and a dark presence appeared on it. Fearing the worst, Mark plucked up the courage to break down the door. But when he entered the room, he found it empty. Except for the photos scattered on the floor, Sarah was gone, disappeared without a trace. The abandoned house on Elmwood Avenue remained a chilling reminder of the horrors that took place within its walls. Residents of the neighborhood never mentioned the house again, and a sense of unease settled on the once thriving community. To this day, the mystery of the cursed house and Sarah's fate remain unsolved, an unforgettable reminder of the darkness that can lurk inside the most ordinary places. The inhabitants of the town had lived peacefully around a quiet lake for many years. When the mist spreading from the lake surrounded the town, people had to walk around in the mist even while doing their daily chores. But there was an old rumor that these decays were a kind of secret agreement between the inhabitants of the lake and the townspeople. Once upon a time, it was believed that mysterious creatures living in the depths of the lake would protect the town from evil. One summer day, Anna, one of the young people of the town, was determined to solve the secret of the mist. He went to the lake and rented a boat. In the hours when the mists were thicker, he slowly made his way to the middle of the lake. At the moment when he began to disappear into the mists, he felt a sudden ripple on the surface of the water. His eyes grew big and he tried to understand what had happened. In an instant, he saw an old and indistinct figure appearing in the water. The figure was approaching him. Anna's heart began to beat fast, and she began to believe that the stories in the town were true. The figure appeared and disappeared in the water. Anna drove faster with the paddle with trembling hands. But the mist became thicker and the thing disappeared in the middle of the lake. There has been no news from Anna, who has been missing for several days. The people of the town continue to believe that he was working with the help of the mists to protect the secret of the lake. But now everyone was wondering what the secret was in the lake. On a cold and gloomy night in winter, Jonathan, a young man, set out for an old manor house where he allegedly left himself. The story of the manor was a legend that circulated among many people. In the town Deck, according to legend, everyone who visited the manor many years ago had disappeared in an endless dark night and never returned. Although Jonathan did not believe these stories, his curiosity brought him all the way to the manor house door. When he knocked, the old wooden door opened with a frightening creak. When he stepped inside, he suddenly remained behind the door. The atmosphere inside the mansion was creepy. There were peeling wallpapers on the walls, and the furniture reflected the weathering of time. Jonathan began to encounter strange things. While exploring the manor, strange and often heard clicks were coming from the walls. In one of the rooms, he found an old mirror. When he looked at himself, his face first seemed to have aged. Then it had deteriorated fatally. He quickly put down the mirror and proceeded to the other room. As he disappeared inside the mansion, he realized that time does not pass, and the clocks turn and turn in an endless night. The hand of the wall clock was constantly turning in the same place. Terrified, Jonathan struggled with the feeling of being stuck inside the mansion. At last, in the remotest corner of the mansion, he suddenly encountered a being who seemed to be a screaming ghost. The ghost approached with a terrible smile and advanced towards Jonathan. Jonathan desperately tried to escape, but he encountered an endless darkness inside the mansion and found himself lost. The next day, the townspeople tried to follow Jonathan's tracks, but they encountered eternal darkness at the entrance gate of the manor. Jonathan was never found again. The townspeople began to believe that the manor was covered with a curse, which they called eternal night. After that day, the manor was forgotten, and no one came close. The curse of the eternal night may still be there, and no one will know the exact facts.